Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk of the Town. We're going live tonight. I have a good show. It's a half hour tonight. I'm Karen Buechs, the host of the evening, and I have a good guest on. He's been a friend. He's running for selectman. Please welcome Scott Vecchi.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Scott. Now, you're running for selectman. Election is May 17th. I believe that's a Saturday.
Yes.
Tell us who Scott Vecchi is and what he'd like to do as selectman.
Well, I'm currently a practicing attorney. I have my own Vecchi Law LLC. I'm also an associate with Miller & Associates in Mansfield. I am a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines, disabled veteran of the Iraq War, and a retired...
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And a retired police sergeant.
Thank you for your service.
I'm also currently certified as an EMT.
Right.
And I work on the ambulance a few days a week. My entire life has been about public service. Right. From when I was 17 years old and joined the Marine Corps to when I came home, I worked at the Suffolk County House of Correction, MBTA Transit Police, then the Plymouth Police Department for 27 years until I retired in December 20th of 2023 on my birthday. I'm very happy to be in that retired category now. So I retired from the Marine Corps when I came back from Fallujah in 2006. I got medically retired. So I'm on my second retirement. We're looking down the road at what's going to be the third one. But my entire life has been about serving the public, serving my community, whether it's our country, whether it's our town, whether, when I work for the transit police, I work for, under the jurisdiction of the state.
And your father served?
My father was a Plymouth police officer. My mother was a nurse at the Jordan Hospital. My great-grandfather, grandfather were both captains on the fire department. My uncle was a deputy chief. So public service is just in my blood.
You lived down by Stevens Field.
When I was a kid, I grew up down on Stevens Field, and back then, it was, when you went through downtown, you knew everybody you saw. Yeah. And or if you didn't know exactly who they were, you knew what family they were. And it was a very small town. And it was actually kind of funny is Steve Viela's dad, the mailman, used to tell my dad when he was walking, my dad was walking the beat, and he'd tell him everything I did all day. So that was Plymouth back then. It was such a small community that you didn't mess up when you were a kid because somebody was going to tell your parents.
That's right.
And we've lost some of that, but I believe we still embrace a lot of that in our community.
We do.
And for all those reasons of, I was born at the Jordan Hospital. I've been in public service my entire life, and I'm currently elected to the Redevelopment Authority. That's May will be 5 years. I served on the Charter Commission. Before that, I was elected to the Charter Commission. I was appointed to the Historic District Commission. I was appointed to the Charter Committee that we both served on. And before that, I was a town meeting rep. So to be honest with you, I've lost count. I know it's in excess of 15 years that I've been involved in town politics.
EMT?
Yep, as an ancillary thing. On top of my other jobs, I try to give back to our community. I try to do something positive. And like we were talking before, when I was on the Charter Commission, a lot of people referred to me as the voice of reason, as kind of, a leveling force within...
A bridge?
A bridge. And that's what I hope to accomplish on the select board as well, is to be that sounding board, you know what I mean? That leveling force to kind of, keep everything even keel and speak in different places when it's appropriate to kind of move the agenda along and keep us, flowing in the proper direction.
As you know, how would you handle this? Selectmen put up with a lot.
They do?
Especially the chair, 24/7 for him. And they do a lot. They sit on other committees. And basically it's volunteer. They get paid very, very little. It affords them maybe stamps and letterheads and whatever. It's very little. But people that end up on the select board love it, or have to love it, because it is a huge commitment. And sometimes people come to the podium that are very angry and say things that are either not true or, meant to agitate. How would you handle that?
Well, when I was on the Charter Commission, we did have a recurrent person who would come in and he would get up to the podium and, and at times was very adversarial. So as, like I said, I'm currently an elected official and I know that I am subject to criticism. The people, some people don't like me, some people do, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And some people will, come to that podium and have things to say that you don't agree with. But when I was on the Charter Commission, they would, we'd give them their allotted time. We'd, hear them out because some people just want to be heard. And much at town meeting, a lot of people will get up to the mic and that's their 5 minutes in the sun. And some people, I remember when I was a town meeting rep, every town meeting, somebody would get up and ask the same question.
Same question.
And I think it was, are we still buying Crown Victorias, as police cars? And, but this was the same question over and over because.
Used to drive me batty.
But for some people, they just need to be heard. So my opinion is I respect everybody else's opinion. I don't have to agree with it. But as an elected official, even if they're criticizing me at the podium, I have to sit there very calmly and let them use their allotted time to say their piece. And then at the end of their allotted time, hey, your time's up, it's time to move on. And you have to have a real thick skin, and as a police officer, I had to have a thick skin. I got called a lot of things as a police officer.
Yes.
And a lot of them weren't words that you'd say on TV.
Yeah.
Simply because I wore a blue uniform.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do? You have to kind of build that, that tough exterior, and
learn how to take it.
And when I was a police officer, a lot of people took me as gruff, and it wasn't gruff. I had a hard shell that I used to get through dealing with unpleasant situations. And much as an elected official in the town, you need to do the same thing. Even if it's somebody who comes to that podium and says the same thing every week in a row, that's their 5 minutes, or is it
3?
3 minutes? I'm sorry. And if you're going to let some people go over the 3 minutes, then you have to let other people's go over the 3 minutes. But it's one of those things where that's the nature of political discourse. We don't have to agree with everybody. But we have to work together for solutions. And if it's just letting somebody vent and then at the end they're done, then you let them vent. And like I said, you use that tough exterior, and that, you ran an election to sit in that seat's subject to criticism.
How about open door policy?
I believe in an open door policy. And actually one of the things that I want to do that I don't believe any of the other selectmen have done is have office hours. I actually have an office because I have my law office, and at least once a month, preferably every other week if I can, have an open door policy of I will be sitting in my office at 130 Camelot from this time to this time. If you want to come and talk to me about an issue in your neighborhood, please come.
Well, what usually happens is you'll get an email or a phone call, and then you can guide them to that time to come.
Yeah. Or at town hall, using one of the meeting rooms, or at the Council on Aging, or wherever it is. But that's one of the things that I see as lacking. Is right now, if you want to talk to somebody, you have to go find that person, or you have to work on finding a scheduled time or something like that. Where I'm going to post, hey, Scott's having office hours on, say, Thursday from 10 to 2. And if you come, you come. If you want to email, you email. But I want to be the person that's available to the constituents.
Well, you will find that the selectmen all say they are available. And all one has to do is pick up a phone, call them, and they make the time. I don't know a selectman that doesn't make the time, but you want it more formalized.
Yeah, I wanted to have it more formalized, much like our state reps, you know,
Oh, yeah.
they have their office hours. They advertise their office hours. You know, I see it all the time, Facebook and Instagram. Hey, we're going to be here. We're going to talk about Eversource. And I think that that's kind of more appealing to people when they say, you know, because, I mean, my phone number has been my phone number forever. You know that I give my phone number out on TV.
Yeah.
781-706-5726 if you want to call me, scott.vecchi@gmail.com. And actually some of the comments that I've been receiving is, you know, Scott's the one who gets back to you. You know, Scott's the one that says, call me, and picks up his phone when you call. And that's, like I said, to me, you know, I was very happy about that comment because, you know, like I said, that's who I am. That's who I've always been. You know, if you want to talk to me, you want to call me, you want to discuss something, you know, that can't fit into a Facebook comment, you know, because a lot of the issues we deal with are complex. You know, when people want to talk about split taxes, you know what I mean, or commercial tax rates and all that other stuff, you can't talk about it in a little box on Facebook.
As much as I'd love a split tax rate, because there isn't enough big business in this town, it can't be done.
That's the devil in the details.
Yeah.
Is, you know, because you have to be careful when you start talking about a split tax rate that you don't turn the hairdresser on Main Street into somebody who's paying commercial level taxes.
Unbelievable. They pay it now.
Because that's, you know, that's not fair.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who's struggling, whether it's a barber or a hairdresser or whether they get a nail salon or, you know, and there's like 5 employees or something like that, treating them like you would treat Amazon or Walmart, you know, is just not fair. And that's something that most people, when they talk about a split tax rate and a commercial tax base, you really have to define those things first.
It's the best way to go, but we can't do it yet. And it's been explained 10 times over.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the reasons why people keep bringing stuff like that up is because of the financial stress that everybody's under. And, you know, the way the economy is and the way inflation is, and, you know, now getting your new Eversource bill with the outrageous
I'd like to
delivery
talk
charges.
to you about that.
Yep.
People like to blame Eversource. It's actually Healy's Green Initiative.
The DPU approved it, and the DPU are appointed officials. So
And it's passed along on our bills. Eversource has no choice but to do that. I mean, until that is changed.
which is why I want to be an advocate for our people in our community, especially those, you know, the people on fixed incomes, you know, your older folks who are struggling, they're living on Social Security, and they can't afford their electric bill.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that we need to look at is how can we as a town provide tax relief for our seniors, you know what I mean, so that they can, you know, live out their golden years. I mean, that's the deal they signed up for. I work till I'm 65, you know, 55,
Now older.
54 for me, yeah. And then everything after that is supposed to be the golden years. And these people are struggling, you know, and they're struggling with property taxes, excise taxes, all the other stuff. You know, how do we find a way to make it more affordable for these seniors?
Well, they're looking into having our own electric company, lights.
Yeah, Middleborough does.
Yep, and, but to have a station is economically not feasible.
Yeah,
But a business person has to come in and give it to the town.
It's a very big outlay to build
Yes,
an electric plant.
huge.
So,
But possible.
yeah. But it's an avenue to explore, and that's the thing is you can't, you know, we can't remain stagnant. We have to embrace our new technologies. We have to, you know, we have to look down the road, and you know, hey, maybe a solar array isn't going to solve all of our problems, but does it offset a little bit of our usage from town hall? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. You know, but we have to be open to exploring all of these new technologies. We have to seek out new revenue streams for the town, because right now the only true revenue stream are the taxpayers.
Well, when you say new revenue stream, are you talking fees?
No.
What?
No, I'm talking like what other things can we do to bring money into the town.
Oh,
Like,
tourism.
well, tourism, or is there something like the county, they administer the parking ticket program, and they make money doing that. Are there those type of revenue streams that we could bring in that would alleviate the taxpayers?
Well, you know, Park Plymouth does
Yep, they do all the parking.
they do all the parking.
Yeah.
The town didn't want to do it, police didn't want to do it, you know.
I was there when it changed.
Yep, so, I mean, but they do it on White Horse Beach. They patrol that area.
Yep, I was, when they first started driving on the side-by-sides up and down White Horse Beach, I was one of the guys on it. You know, and I would drive up and down the beach, and I would see the town meeting reps, or every now and again a selectman, and I'd go over and talk to them, and that was, we embraced community policing down there.
My son gave the wands on the back of one of those,
The big
lit
bright
ones.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what my son does.
Yeah, I've been gone for a little while now, but
Yeah.
like I said, it was one of those things. And if you remember the bad old days of the '80s and '90s, when White Horse Beach on the 3rd of July was a complete disaster.
Disaster.
And through I mean, I hate to use community policing as a buzzword, but through partnering with the community down there,
Meetings.
and stepping up to putting more people actually on the beach during the day, regulating the bonfires better, they turned it back into a family affair.
Right.
And those were great creative solutions. What did they do? Well, they put a forest fire truck on the beach, and they drove up and down checking all the burn permits. And if it wasn't right, then they'd put it out, or all that other stuff. And like I said, those are the things that we need to do as a community. Like I said, looking at new technologies, looking for new available revenue streams. But I know that I don't have all the answers. You know who has all the answers? Somebody out there. And by having office hours, like the state reps do, I'm hoping that some of those people out there will come in.
Good idea.
And bring good ideas. I can't remember Anatol's last name.
Oh, yeah.
But he has a lot of good ideas. You know what I mean? Well, when you look on paper, like I said, sometimes, like I said, you gotta work with people. But he had some new 3-decker concepts. The old, So he has some good ideas. So giving him a venue to speak, but I'm just using him as an example, right? There could be somebody else out there that, similar to him, has these great ideas, and they need to share them. And I want to be that open conduit. A lot of things that when I was running around with, talking about weren't my ideas. They were somebody else came up to me and they said, hey, you know what we should do?
What about this?
Yeah, what about the animal shelter?
I loved that idea.
Our current town, Plymouth's animal shelter, is 40-something plus years old. And, it hasn't been updated. It's down in Cedarville. It's not not accessible.
Not handy.
Yeah, and, so is there a place in, just example, the water barn on Long Pond Road is in a commercial area. There aren't houses with barking dogs would bother people. They've been looking to raise the water barn. It's just a steel building.
Right.
But I believe that site is a couple acres, if not 3 acres, because it's like a weird triangle. So would that be more geographical centered for a new state-of-the-art animal control facility? Could we partner with a 501c3? Could we look at some of these existing organizations like New England Lab Rescue or the Needs Dogs, or, and just as examples. But are there partnerships that we could do so it wouldn't cost the taxpayers a ton of money to do this?
It's a good idea.
And everybody loves dogs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was down in Connecticut. I went hunting today with my son. I had a great day, family day, and my black lab Walter.
Oh, I know Walter.
He's a wonderful dog.
Yeah.
George is almost 13, so he's kind of a couch dog now.
Yeah.
He's retired. But like I said, I spent the whole day with my son and Walter, and we were out in the woods, and it was great. And so our furry friends, they need help too. You know what I mean? And so, like right now, you have mostly part-time animal control people. It went from the police department to natural resources to now the Board of Health. They kind of keep getting passed around, So maybe if we just latch onto that and establish it a little better, look at different revenue streams that they could bring in. I don't know how much money it costs to adopt a pet, but I know they don't do a lot of adoptions because they don't want to be there, have these dogs there for that time. But with a new facility, maybe we could do that and bring in money.
What's your ideas on Water Street?
Water Street is, we talked about that a little bit ago. The problem with digging up Water Street for a third time is that is all loosely packed fill. It's all permeated with salt water. If you go to the bottom of Lothrop Street, and I know because I used to work details, I used to have my orange coat on standing next to the Verizon truck, and every time they open that hole at the bottom of Lothrop Street, it's full of salt water, and they have to pump all the salt water out before they can get down there and work on whatever the phone line's problem is. But that's how Water Street is. All the way from Mamma Mia's out to the bottom of Coles Hill out is all loosely packed fill that's permeated with salt water. So we're using gravity right now to move sewage. We talked about the sheriff's department. They were moving sewage uphill for years, and their toilets kept backing up, so they built a pump station.
Yeah.
So maybe gravity isn't the answer. I personally am not an engineer. It's probably one of the few things that I am not. But like I said, we need to look at this and say, hey, let's stop shoving a square peg in a round hole. Let's stop digging up Water Street in the middle of tourist season when a lot of these businesses count on bringing in most of their revenue for the year. Mm-hmm. And let's look at what other solutions are out there. Is a pumping station a solution? Is that an idea that we need to explore? Well, if gravity isn't your friend because the pipes keep settling, then maybe it is. Again, I'm not an engineer, so I can't really speak to that. But, if you're on the third time, it's not working. And that's when it's time to find a new solution.
I know they want a pumping station, and it's the idea to have.
I mean, the one thing I can say is I completely disagree with digging up Water Street in the middle of tourist season. Like I said, we need to solve our problem, but we can't do it at the expense of all of the businesses around us, and traffic, because once you start changing the traffic flow, that'll affect all your businesses up on Main Street and Court Street. So I mean, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue, and we need to. Like I said, and that's what I'm hoping to bring to the table is, I grew up downtown. I lived on Stevens Field. I know, where things are and are not. I remember railroad tracks running through the center of town. And so, I have a historical and institutional knowledge of our town. And I think that's, that might be somewhat lacking in some of our board members. And it's something that I bring to the table. And I'm not looking to, upset the apple cart. I'm looking to how can I enhance the Board of Selectmen? How can I come in as a positive force, to help us affect change and do better for our residents, do better for our taxpayers?
Right. I think everybody on the select board was born here in Plymouth. I think. Pretty sure. I'm not sure about Canty, but.
Well, I mean, I have a little unfair advantage, being a police officer in the town for 27 years.
Sidewalks.
I've driven most of the miles of road in our town. I've been to places where people couldn't find.
Where I still haven't been.
And that's the thing is I do have that depth of experience, that depth of knowledge that comes just from my profession.
It always amazes me. I've been here 52 years. There are still places in this town I have not been. Yeah. The southern sector, the way down.
Yeah. There's, going to Buttermilk Bay. Yeah. Buttermilk Bay is an underserved part of our town because you have to go through 2 other towns to get there.
Oh, it takes them over a half hour to get into Plymouth.
And some people just don't even know where it is. And that's, if you look at the map, there's old cart paths that come right up but there's no paved roads. You have to go down to the canal, cut across.
Farmlands.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things. Like I said, I have that knowledge of those parts of town. What are the issues in Buttermilk Bay? You know what I mean? It's underserved. It's, you know, it's way down. It's hard.
Should be part of Wareham.
It's hard to what do you call it? Provide services. The fire
Yeah.
truck has to come off of Bourne Road. You know, there's a lot of stuff that has to do. If you need an ambulance down there, it's coming all the way from Cedarville. But but each part of our town has its own issues. You know, I live in North Plymouth right now. You know, North Plymouth has its own challenges. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things. And a lot of people don't remember how the cordage company was such a force in our town.
Oh, huge.
And, you know, like I said, the cordage company was all the way back in, you know, I think the late 50s or early 60s was when it closed. But even though it had closed, that was still the I don't want to say the flavor, but the effects of the cordage company, you know, which was a job for life. They had a store, you could get your groceries taken out of your
lived
check.
right
You could
around
have your
there.
rent taken out of your check. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? All those things. The cordage company was Plymouth for a while. The majority of the population of Plymouth lived north of Chilton Street.
Right.
So now, when we start looking down at Red Brook, which used to be a dirt road, right? And I remember going down there to pull cars out of the bogs because in the wintertime it was windy and they'd all wind up in the
yeah.
bogs. You know, I lived in Chiltonville for, you know, I lived
I
on Gun.
love Chiltonville.
I love Chiltonville.
It's eye candy.
And if I'm ever having a day when I need to ground myself, I'll go get a coffee and I'll go ride down Jordan Road and I'll look at all the
Yeah.
horses, and, you know, and I'll just and it's almost like you're in a different place.
Different world.
You know, so I lived in Chiltonville for a while. I lived in West Plymouth. You know, after, you know, I lived in Stevens Field. So I've lived in these different villages of Plymouth. And Cedarville is very different than it used to be, you know, in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
You know, I mean, there was nobody down there, you know, off season.
When I moved to Manomet, year round, there were 300 people.
Yeah. When I was in high school, you didn't go over the Pine Hills unless you had a reason.
That's what people say.
Yep. And to be honest with you, for my whole time when I was a kid, it wasn't until I got on the police department that I actually had a recurrent reason to drive around Manomet and Cedarville and, you know, and all the way down Wareham Road
you
and all that other
believe
stuff.
that?
And it's such a large part of Plymouth.
Yeah.
You know, when we start talking about the Pilgrim 1600, which is hugely important, you know what I mean? To put in residential development there would cause a real undue burden on our services of the town. It would inflate our, you know, fire, police, DPW, like all that stuff. It would just cost schools. It would cost so much money. You know, I've actually walked the trails out there.
Oh, sure.
Way back when the nuclear plant was open, I was friends with one of the security guys, and, you know, we had explored a joint nuclear security and police department range, and we were trying to figure out where to put it. So I actually walked around out there and walked all the way up the hill, walked all the, you know, the water tower is and all that stuff.
Scott, I want to thank you for coming on to the program.
Thank
I
you.
wish you the very best. We have a minute left. Tell everybody why you would like their vote.
Well, the first thing I'll do is I'll tell you how to find me. You can find me on Facebook at the Committee to Elect Scott Vecchi. My email address is scott.vecchi@gmail.com. My cell number is 781-706-5726. Our website is vote, V-O-T-E, the number 4, Vecchi.org. Voteforvecchi.org. If you'd like a lawn sign, there's a link on that, so we can get a lawn sign out on your lawn. Mine aren't out yet. They'll be coming out in about another week or so. But I'm respectfully asking for your vote on May 17th. I look to bring fiscal responsibility, common sense, and, you know, be the voice of reason and listen to my constituents, and because a lot of you have the answers that I don't have. And I always give credit to somebody who comes to me with it, and I'll say, this isn't my idea, but it's a really good idea, you know, and I run with it. And that's what I hope to do for you. I hope to be that person that serves my community, that serves our residents, that tries to find tax breaks for our seniors, you know, that looks at things and say, hey, what's our impact on our environment? What's the impact on our culture as a town?
Thank you,
Thank you very
and the
much.
best for you, Scott.
I always appreciate you having me on my show. I love doing the show
second time.
with you.
Oh, anytime.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Scott.
So, and I was sit waiting for
Yeah, yeah,
the,
you did very well.